Hello, John.
And whatever.
And so today we're going to be talking about importing criminality into Ireland. 15% of prisoners are foreign nationals, with most others from the EU states. That's an article in the Irish Examiner. So it says that just under 1 in 7 inmates in Irish jails are foreign nationals, with the vast bulk of them from other EU states. Seems to be like we're importing a lot of criminals, and the question is, what do you do with them? Do you deport them? Do you make them face justice in Ireland? What's your opinion?
Well, the fact is that they're not checking them, first of all, as they come in, undocumented in some cases. But they feel that there's a lack of police presence in the countries that they come from. Police are everywhere. But when they come here, you see police driving around in cars. Rarely do you see them about unless there's some kind of trouble or something, and then they're out in force. But otherwise, you don't see them as much on the street in the city and in town. So that gives the people that come here. They feel that it's and they can do things that they couldn't do in their own country because of the lack of what the presence of the police, and so therefore they commit crimes. But then they're apprehended, and the chances are that oftentimes they get bail. So if there's 15% in jail, there's a lot of more that have been allowed out and getting the suspended sentences. That's been discussed on social media by people that are appalled at the lack of proper sentencing, and you hear that jails are full. We've no way of knowing or verifying that fact. But the fact is that they should be able to accommodate criminals and not and leave the people in safety going about, because there was a period when criminals were wandering around the country freely and doing a lot of harm to in rural communities where people were living in isolated areas and coming in barefaced and robbing them and putting and inflicting violence on some. So there was that aspect. You don't hear too much about this business of all that sort of thing that's happened over the years, as I recall, and it was nearly like an epidemic. Now, this question of foreigners, and quite frankly, there's quite an amount, because no matter where I go, that's where I see mostly. And if I'm on a bus, most of the people getting off it seem to be from other jurisdictions. Or seem to be a scarce commodity. Traveling in public transport, there's ones from all over, and they're often conversing in their own tongue. So you don't know where you are half the time, because sometimes I get the bus from Navan. I drive to Navan and get the bus going up to Dublin. It means that you can go where you intend to go without having to sort of drive a car and be not know where you can go, because there's a lot of areas that are blocked off. And there's parking is another problem if you're driving a car. But when you're in the bus, you don't have that problem. And the NX bus from Navan goes every 20 minutes, and it goes down, and then it goes on the motorway. So you're up in Dublin in jig time, because there's a bus lane as well. So these are all plus factors. But you're talking about criminals. The fact is that that's a very high amount to be in prison from various other countries. Like what brought them here? Was it? Did they think that there was a kind of rich pickings or something? Because this is the danger, and there was often criminals then from these other jurisdictions that were stealing cars and making changes on them and then exporting them. There was ones caught for that. I don't hear too much about that at the moment, but there was ones caught in different parts of the country, including near where I happen to live here. A criminal caught, and he had high value cars. You're talking about Mercedes and BMWs and that sort of thing, and changing their details on the mix. They seem to be experienced at that type of stuff,
So
if you know what I mean. So
I,
perhaps a lot of them are in jail, these criminals, and what have they done? Have they attacked people? Have they been, they're in jail, but what are they in jail for?
that's the thing. Look, they're in jail
Breaking the
for.
law, of course, but yeah.
So, do you think that they should have to serve their sentences at the expense of the taxpayer, or should we just deport them?
Well, they should, and when they're deported, there shouldn't be this business of barristers and all being engaged at the taxpayers' expense, so as they can kind of stay here to do more harm. They should be just put on wherever they're supposed to be from, or where they can make sure that they find out where they're from, and send them off without any sort of going through channels as they seem to do here. There seems to be a bonanza for people engaged in allowing these people to stay here when they've committed crimes, and when they're adopting antisocial attitudes. I mean, they're not all like that, thank God, because if it was, it'd be just deplorable. Because we can go about, generally speaking, in safety. But I think this government, because by their inaction, has allowed the country to be overrun in some ways. And when that happens, and these people, I say, are they working? I see them, a lot of them working in hospitals. I see a lot of them working in driving buses. I see them in all sorts of occupations and driving vans. So there's all this, like how many are in jobs that heretofore Irish people might have been doing. What's the percentage? We don't. There's a lot of things we don't know, and we should know. We should know how many are in employment, in various occupations. I mean, I stayed in a hotel there for the annual Mass of the Malones. It was at 5:30 there on Sunday, on just Saturday going out. It had been for the 17th of November, but they were suddenly introducing sometime this parish council had for a family day for a family Sunday once every month, for to try and get families back. And so they should have never interfered with November, because that's for the holy souls. But our date had to be transferred, and I was looking after that, transferred to the 2nd of November, which was last Saturday, just gone out. And I stayed in the Marine Hotel in Sutton, and it was all people from other jurisdictions. And I think perhaps foreigners owned that hotel now, which was owned by Irish, but I didn't see any Irish people. It was foreign people, and the command of English was very limited. And I was supposed to be given what I call a superior room. I didn't see that much superior bed. It was a big double bed, of course, and a couple of armchairs. But I know, as regards the sink, in the bathroom. It was there was no. It was just a little thing which you had to put it in. There was no chain for it, so uh, you know. So I didn't see that much superior. But be that as it may, um, what I'm saying is that there's a big amount of people from other countries in jobs that seems to me unsuitable for them, because the command of English or the culture is pretty low.
Very good. Yeah, look, I think, it's something that we need to look at. If importing that many people, 15% of Irish people in prisons are foreign nationals, I think it's just too big, and they need to look at who they're bringing in and maybe better screening.
Well, but you see, the no strain is the this is what we heard, but and this is what we know, I think, and it has been verified by many that that's the fact of the matter. But how they're able to arrive, most of the countries they don't accept that type of person coming in. The EU is now trying to dictate to countries what they can do, but the EU now is under a bit of trouble because in France, Marie Le Pen might be the next president, and she's anti the EU, and the same in Italy. The premier in that country is anti EU because they're interfering with their ability to run their own affairs, and they don't want all this interference. When the EU was started, it was an economic cooperation, but it has morphed into this business of more than that, and it's the Commission that's doing this. And quite frankly, this country has handed over all this kind of jurisdiction or something to this entity, the EU. So that's a very peculiar thing to do, to hand over your hard-won freedom that people suffered and died for. You want to run your own affairs, don't you? And a lot of people, we voted no twice in various referendum, but this government of the day overruled that and had second referendums and tried the people. So they didn't accept the first no that we had. We didn't agree with what they were doing. Our government didn't respect democracy. I think this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the criminal